are talking about success and how an overnight success actually takes years to build.
How often do you hear that said, but that so many people? But it all comes down to one simple thing. What does success mean to the individual?
And what does overnight mean?
Well, that's a very good question, yes. But because it's over what night? Was it the night just now, or was it a night in 10 years' time? It's one of those things that if you look at most businesses or larger businesses and you look at the background, how many of them failed so many times before they actually got the right thing? Same as when you look at music industry. Very rarely you'll ever find someone who their first song is actually the big hit and it makes them all famous. They've worked on some comedians. They work so many clubs and little grounds. Who was it? Was it Billy Connolly or one of the Scottish ones anyway? So when he was talking originally, everybody thinks I'm famous all the time. I've always been. He was in a club and there was like two people in him. And that was it.
Aye,
Yeah.
but that's the thing, like, right? Like you hone your skills and you like and you figure it out, like you're pivoting, you're finding the exact angle that you need. And the only way to really find that and do that is by um by trying and reinventing and moving forward.
Yeah.
But what it also makes me think, because we often talk about celebration as well, right? Because you're saying
Yeah.
like what is success? And for me, it is also like what we tend to do is have this big goal and then we don't celebrate until we get to the big goal.
Yeah.
But if success is managing all those little milestones and little
Yeah.
steps in between, that makes it much more enjoyable. But also, I think then this whole idea that overnight success is a thing kind of
Mhm.
falls by the wayside.
Yeah. I think for most people sitting out in business, it's very rare that I hear anybody actually saying, well, yeah, I expect to be this by tomorrow, or I'm going to be a millionaire by tomorrow, whatever. It's success is to me as achieving one thing every day. If I achieve one thing more today than I did yesterday, then I've achieved success for today because I've achieved something. There's something that happened. I use an example all the time with clients when they say, well, I haven't really done anything. Tell me the first thing you did when you got up this morning. And it's amazing many people not so much make a bed nowadays, but pull the duvet up, straighten it up, sort it out, and then go to with a shower or coffee, whatever they're going to do. I went, there you go. That was your first achievement. And they went, what, getting a coffee? I went, no. The first thing you did was sort that bed out. That's the first thing you did when you go up. So you've achieved something that day. And it doesn't sound like much, but what does it look like when you look at a nice, cozy looking bed, nice and neat, or one that's all ruffled and all over the place? Does it look as comfortable? Not really, because you want something to be clean, to be tidier, to feel like that. And I think that's the same as business, is it's not always going to be that way, that nice, neat bed thing like that, until you make it that way. You have to find your bits you've got to do that. And every day, if we have something that we achieve, doesn't matter what it is, and celebrate that, right? Then that
Mm.
helps along the journey of it. And that's success. Every single day you're moving forward, and if you achieve one thing, that's a success for me.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And some days, success is making the bed or even just arriving at your desk. And sometimes it's, making the sale or figuring something out that's been bugging you for a long
Mhm.
time, or, it can be all of those things. And admittedly, the signing the client and the figuring shit out can feel much more exciting
Mhm.
than, oh, today I I don't know, I posted something to my social media, which, um but that's still success. Like you've still achieved something, you've still done something, you still moved something forward
Yeah, yeah,
towards the greater goal.
and that's it. It's that's the thing that I sometimes just try to change maybe terminology for people when they talk this overnight success. And I say the examples like normally used for people is the large companies like Microsoft, right? One of the biggest companies in the world. But did they make it overnight? Did they suddenly come up one day with a plan and the next day they were the biggest company? No. It doesn't matter how many times did they fail with the idea before they became as Microsoft. You can say the same with Virgin, another massive company who diversify into so many different avenues in their businesses, but each of them is only came because the things that didn't work in the first place, because they learned from those things.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in business 5 years now, and I say to people is that I've now only in the fifth year found what my business should be, where I should be in the business. I've
Yeah.
been in so many directions for the last 5 years, But now is the most comfortable, the happiest I am within the business going. It's took me all this time, and I kept thinking I'm supposed to be this direction, that direction, and it was a combination of all of it before I got here. So I look at that as the successes, and I look back. You think, well, all these things didn't work, and then I went, actually, about lots of learning. If I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't have went through all that. So it's not an overnight success. It is in one respect, is that suddenly one day in November last year I went, this is not the right thing I'm doing. This is what I should be doing. But it took me that nearly 5 years to get to that point to be able to
Yeah.
make a decision. But for a lot of people, it was like, oh, you suddenly, your business is different, your wee website and your everything. You've just done it overnight. But no, it took nearly 5 years of work, effort, a lot of things not going the way I would like that's going there before I get to a place to say, I'm content. It doesn't mean I'm there at the end of my journey, but it means I'm on the right path towards my journey.
Well, but that's the thing as well. Like, your business, as much as anything, is a living organism. It will keep
Mhm.
developing. Like we say, like, oh, I've reached this goal. Great. And I think sometimes we skip too quickly, right? Like, okay, so
Yeah.
what's the next milestone? But at the same time, like, it has to keep moving and adjusting and developing and responding, because we change, the world changes, like,
Mhm.
and we have to constantly adjust to that. It's that thing. I once had a conversation with someone about balance, right? And because again, like, we think of this as a set goal, a
Mm.
destination that we have to achieve, but balance is just the constant micro adjustments that we have to make in order to stay upright. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
we're constantly adjusting, and depending on how we feel, that
Mm.
becomes easier or uh, and I think the same is true in business, right? Like, in some days it's super easy to keep that balance, and some days you're just, you know I don't know, crying at your desk because it's hard
Yeah.
sometimes, right?
Hmm.
Like, and we've all been there in that place where you're like, this isn't going, why is this not working? This is,
Hmm.
and it can get so frustrating, um uh but that's what it is. And then once that penny drops, I sent you a whole big file recently where I was like, oh, suddenly all of the different bits came together, and I was like, oh, finally I understand how all these different things that I've been doing all connect. And that gave me a direction to move forward in, because, like you say, we try things and we figure out what we don't want to do, which is just as valuable information as it is to figure out what you do want to do.
Yeah. And sometimes it's more important to get those lessons. And I think it's so true, but it was something I learned a long time ago, that we learn more from failures than we do from successes.
if we
Um,
if we allow them to teach
That's
us
what I was going to
stuff.
say. Yeah, that's the thing is it's the way people respond to things that go wrong, and it's like, "Oh, I want to give up, or this is not right. I've had enough of this," and I hear that so often, and it's just because it becomes overwhelming for them. It's the fact they feel like all these things are wrong, and I kept saying to people that why are you focusing on the things that didn't work? What about all the things that have worked? All the things that you've learned from that? Oh, but I'm not the things that went wrong, and but you've just learned how not to do something. And they just look at you, what? Well, you've learned that's not the right way for you. It doesn't mean it's wrong, because for the next person coming along, that could be the perfect way for them. But for you in particular, you've learned that's not right for you. So you know the next 10, that's something you can tick off. It's not the right way of doing it. And I think that's I don't know if the fun's the right word for it, but that's the bit that I enjoy about life and the journey, is that I was so focused on the destination when I started. Because that's my first coach told me, right, we need to get your destination and then we can work everything towards that. Right. But what they never bothered about them was the journey to get there. Everyone was focused on this is where you should be in 12 months, 2 years, 5 years. All these set plans that I had. But when I was looking and putting it down, I was so excited. It seemed great. And when I saw it on a board on paper, all these things, I was like, that's amazing. And then within a month, I went, actually, why am I doing it? I don't even enjoy that. I'm not enjoying any of this. And that's the bit that they had lost. And I hadn't seen is it's all the little bits that you said earlier, the little tiny little bits, increments that you can move. That's the bit that makes the whole journey worthwhile. It makes that destination worthwhile. But
Yeah.
I think if you think of a mountain and you look up and you start coming to climb that mountain or a really large hill, you think you can see where the top is. But when you get to that point, you go, oh no, there's another bit, and then another bit, and another bit, and you went, when are we ever going to get to the top? But that's like business is. You think you've got that goal as your destination, but most of the time it isn't. It's a stepping stone towards the next step and then the next step. And I think that's the way to look at it is overnight success can be, okay, today I've achieved that one thing that I didn't do yesterday. That's an overnight success.
Yeah.
Expecting everything to fall in your lap right away the next day, that's not a success.
No, and I think as well, like even if today I do less than I did yesterday, or I mess something up that I thought I was gonna nail today, there's still movement in that, and what you're saying as well, like we learn from our mistakes,
Hmm.
in terms of, but then we have to investigate as well, right? Like I've spent a lot of time in the past year thinking like I don't enjoy what I'm doing anymore, and but but it's important to understand what about this am I not enjoying, right?
Hmm.
Like because it almost never is that 100%. I don't like my business anymore.
Hmm.
There are certain aspects of this that don't no longer align, or that I'm that aren't working for me. But like you said, it requires investigation. And as you're going up that hill, the view changes. The view
Hmm.
halfway up the hill can be stunning, and it's going to be completely different from the view that you get from the top of the hill. And it doesn't make the view any less spectacular, right? So it's this sort of like it's it's taking those moments, and like you say, enjoy the journey, which
Hmm.
also is a fucking cliche, but but I guess that we're stuck in the cliches today. But um, but it's the more we can enjoy the process, even and of course when we're feeling frustrated, that doesn't feel enjoyable, but but figuring out what's causing the frustration is quite enjoyable, right?
Yeah,
Like when you get that eureka moment, it's like, I
yeah.
figured it out.
And that's it, and that's the celebrating it because even you think everything's gone wrong that day, and you say, "But I've not done anything that moves you forward," but you have because you made the effort to do that. Whether it's right or wrong, what happened, you learn from it, as you said. You need to look why it wasn't right, but you learn from that. But the thing you should have not be hard on yourself about is, but I still put all that effort to do that. I made that episode. I did do something, and I didn't do that yesterday. I did that today. So you have made that progress, and I think that sometimes for new business owners, especially, and if they are on their own, if there's nobody else in it, we are really hard on ourselves. We've all been there, really hard, and it doesn't work. It's all our fault. Everything to do with us because it's our business. Everyone's responsible. But sometimes, yeah, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes things are outside your control, but you don't see that because you're the one in there, and there is nobody else that can look at that from the outside and say, actually, no, that's because of this, that reason. You just feel it. And I think that's the bit that you need to learn as early as possible in it. Is yeah, you're responsible for all when things don't go right, but you're also the one that's responsible when everything does go right. And that's better. And you said there, when you work out why it didn't go right, you go, either I know not to do it again, or I know how I can change that to make it better next time. What a feeling it is because you worked all out on your own.